For my interview, I chose to interview Mike Garner. He is a local Claremont Middle School ag teacher and the advisor for the Claremont Middle School FFA program. I'd probably say I interviewed him for three reasons, and that would be his time in the position, his real life experience, and his personality. So just those aren't really traits, but just kind of ways to break it up. So his time in the position, he's been a middle school ag teacher for over 10 years, and in that time he's been able to see a lot of students and actually continue a professional relationship with them, whether it's serving as a reference for their college essays or even providing them with opportunities in the work field of agriculture. His real life experience would probably start off with the fact that his family's always been into the agri-science field, and his family currently owns and operates a nursery. So he's able to learn about horticultural sciences not only from the practices at the school because they have a greenhouse, monitors chicks, and they also have bunnies and rabbits so that they can do animal science units, but he also does that as a secondary profession just to show that there is the juggling of those two tasks and show that he does have expertise in the field. And then his personality, I would probably just say, to sum up his teaching style and pretty much how he's able to approach so many different students and entice them and introduce them into the world of agriculture, whether it be through competing with CDEs or just learning how to properly grow a plant in the greenhouse or raise an animal such as a chick or a rabbit at the school. So I think that these were probably the three fundamental reasons of why I chose him, because I was able to kind of take my experience from being a student of his, but also be able to see how that transitions for someone who's not a student anymore. So this was actually the man who introduced me to agriculture. When I was in 6th grade, I was put into an ag class, and this class changed my life. And I think that this is something that's been influential and something that has been really important for a lot of students in that age, because many students don't really know that they're going to find a passion in agriculture until you're introduced to it. So I think that middle school ag teachers is a very important underrepresented audience, because many of them are the introduction that you see for people that run for Florida FFA state office or people that join the Farm Bureau that don't come from agricultural families. Their roots are typically found in agri-science teachers. So I think that's a really interesting way to kind of show how so many different leaders, whether it be in a political field that is just very passionate about agriculture, or whether it be people that work for Farm Bureau or are part of their local farmers market or just are used to that, is to kind of see where most people get their introduction, or where a lot of people who do develop a passion, such as myself, get an introduction. So my perception of Mike Garner as a leader throughout the interview was kind of evident, just because from the role of a teacher, you're supposed to not only manage the classroom, like we read in the New York Times article, but you're also supposed to forge relationships with your students. So I think that that's very important, is that you're not really someone that's cold, that you're someone that's also personable and able to make those connections so that people really feel connected to the material, and so that you're able to kind of make each of your lessons personalized to the students. So that's one thing that when I asked Mike about why he wanted to be an ag teacher, he said that it was something that he'd seen that while his father was an ag teacher, he saw the impact that it really made on the students, and that was something that he wanted to replicate. That because, of course, he had already known about agriculture from having a father who was an ag teacher, that it was really important to him seeing his friends who didn't know about agriculture get that introduction and how important and vital that was. So I think that one of the things that I would probably say was my perception of him is that he wanted to be an influencer, which I think is very important when you want to identify yourself as a leader. Some key leadership characteristics that were discussed by him was definitely adaptability. So in their classroom, there's two different sets of students. There is the advanced ag class, which is pretty much the FFA training course, and that is very fast paced and very group oriented, but also very team oriented. And then there's the interpersonalized learning for his normal agri-science classes. So for the normal agri-science classes, he likes to set people up on their own pace, but also have a diverse set of material. So some people are kinesthetic learners and some people are audio learners. So there's different ways that you can learn the material and then they come together. So I think that that's really important and very unique, is that he's being very adaptable and expressing those that characteristic, just whether it's being the adaptability of that. The next I would probably say is teammate, just because in the advanced ag class when I was able to see their interactions, but also able to ask about it in the interview. I think that it was really important that he was building on that team, not only with the team members that would be competing in the competitions, but also making himself a team player by serving as a resource for all of the different groups. I would also say that something that was really important was that he was very communicative. So while he was talking about it, he was saying that it's really important to let your students know what's happening in American agriculture, especially because you have so many contests like extemporaneous public speaking or prepared public speaking, where students are tasked with telling someone and actually becoming advocates. So it's really important to actually make yourself an advocate by doing that. Additionally, I think that it's really important to highlight the fact that he's always served as an advocate, and I think that that's another characteristic that he exemplifies very much, just because he's serving as an advocate every day, that he's introducing new people to agriculture. And I think that that is really speaks volumes, because it's not really an impact that you make if you're only affecting yourself. And I think that's also part of why he's defined as a leader. My perception of Mike Garner as a leader was definitely that he is a trendsetter, in the sense that he introduces these students to agriculture and expects them to have that stick. But he also is able to make it a one-on-one connection. So yes, in a teacher, and you have to, as a teacher, you have to work with benchmarks, and you have to make sure that you reach all of these standards and everything that the state imposes on you, but you also need to make it an interpersonal relationship between the material and the student if they are in turn going to become advocates. So I'd probably say that just making things interpersonal was very important to him. And I thought that was definitely something that was a huge takeaway from the interview, was that anytime that we asked a question that was, what was your best experience, what was your worst, that the questions were very much geared to his one-on-one relationships with the students, but also to the one-on-one relationships that the students had with the material. So it was, some students be really connected to the greenhouse and therefore wanted to pursue horticultural sciences in the future or get FNGLA certified. And then you had some students that wanted to be vets in the future, and it was really important to focus on that unit for them. So kind of being able to see where students shine individually, because the agricultural field is so massive. Additionally, I thought that it was really important that the key statements that he said was that agricultural advocates is the most important role that anyone can play, because it's something that is so underlooked. So you have people, we have 2% of Americans are farmers, but how many Americans are advocating for that 2%? Because the 2%, it makes sense for someone to, advocate for themselves for job security, but who's the consumer that's advocating for agriculture? And I thought that that was really important, because you have a lot of students who stray away from agriculture and the agricultural industry just because they don't want to be farmers and they don't want to be directly associated with it. And I think that one thing that was really important that shows just how important advocacy is to servant leadership and to leadership as a whole is that he was saying that advocacy is about advocating for something you believe in, and that it's not a matter of talking to someone about something that they already know about, but it's about challenging the status quo and making yourself uncomfortable. So one of the key statements that he said during the interview was that if you're not uncomfortable and you're not making someone uncomfortable, you're not learning. Because if we're all subsiding with status quo, there wouldn't be any need for advocates. And in American society, we definitely need advocates in the agricultural industry. So that's probably why I would say that Mike Garner is going to be a leader, or serves as a leader currently in society, just because he brings new ideas and is able to actually train leaders and his followers. He's preparing them to become leaders and advocates in the future. So thank you so much.